Welcome to the Connected Leaders Academy virtual conference designed to reshape your vision of transformation. As we navigate the evolving business landscape, our speakers will unveil innovative strategies to manage and initiate change. Prepare to adapt, innovate, and lead, ensuring your role as a catalyst in this transformative era.
Well, hello, I am Donna, and I am happy you are here. I want to talk about legacy. Yeah, that's surprising, right? When it is the name of today's whole summit. Legacy is such a powerful word. And when I think of it, I immediately think of the contrast between legacy and inheritance. Now, inheritance is wonderful. We should leave an inheritance to our children and our children's children. It's scriptural. It's a godly thing. It's wonderful. But the contrast, inheritance is something you leave to someone. And a legacy, I call it something you leave in someone. Now, my husband worked for corporate for 30 years, and the corporation was UPS. And I don't know if you know this, but they time everything. How many steps you take, how many stops you're doing, how long each stop takes. Every single metric is measured and tracked and optimized. And I have coached successful people in all kinds of walks of life. Let's talk about a nonprofit organization. Their success is measured a lot by their dollar value and how many people they impacted. And if we talk about presidents or vice presidents tracking sale metrics, cost-effective ratios, leaders know their numbers. But often we can't tell you the last time we had a real conversation with one of our team members, or maybe our whole team. We can get so caught up in scaling, in looking at numbers, and measuring what we can count, that we might miss what really matters. In the scheme of your lifetime, do those numbers really matter? Now, I'm the girl who likes to talk about what matters. I'm not one that does very well with a lot of small talk. I want to talk about what's lasting. And if that's what you're here for, you're in the right place. Because at the end of your life, no one wishes that they spent more time at the office. But, we do have a passion. We have a mission. We have dreams. We have commitments. Just like I do with Vibrant Living International. I want to impact more people. I want to help people grow and excel, live a vibrant life, to make a difference in the world. I want to serve. But with all of that, it can get confusing when we look at our metrics. So how do we create something that makes a real difference, that leaves a legacy, while also living a vibrant life? Because they could get confusing. So how do we build legacy in people, not just an inheritance to people? Well, it comes down to this two things, basically. It's not so much what you're doing. It's who you're being while you're doing. Most leaders are focused on KPIs, key performance indicators, metrics, numbers, growth charts, revenue, how many people you reached, maybe how many states you've expanded to, maybe even countries. And, I get it. Metrics matter. My husband lived in that world for 3 decades, 30 years. But today I want to introduce you to another concept, another way to live. And I call it KSI. And that stands for Kingdom Spiritual Intelligence. What if, instead of just tracking your KPIs, you started focusing first on your KSI? Kingdom spiritual intelligence. What if we did a spiritual checkup on your life? You know, in leadership and business, we often talk about our emotional quotient, and our emotional intelligence and different things like that. But not often do we think about our spiritual intelligence. So what if we did a spiritual checkup on your life, on your leadership, on your business? How would that look? Because KSI is a completely different operating system than the one we're normally taught. KSI isn't just about working harder. It isn't just about reaching more people. It's aligning with how God designed things to actually operate. It's about knowing whose you are, who you are, and who God is. You know, when you have a team, are you working with them around the numbers, or are you also building people? What are you leaving in them? Are you helping them to think differently, lead differently, carry authority differently? Are you helping them know who they are? Because every single person has a purpose. Every single person has a destiny. And as a leader, are you either helping them fulfill it, or are you just going to use them to hit your numbers? That's the difference between building inheritance and building legacy. Let me show you an example of this in real life. I worked with a woman who founded a nonprofit organization. She had a brilliant vision, a deep calling, but she was really stressed out. She wasn't taking care of herself, working long hours, feeling like everything was a battle and every decision was hard and every day was exhausting. Why? Because she focused entirely on her KPIs. How many people can we serve? How much funding did we raise? How do we grow this? How do I prove my impact to our board? Now, those are all the right questions for a nonprofit leader, except they were the only questions she was asking. When we started working together, I introduced her to KSI, Kingdom Spiritual Intelligence. We didn't ignore the metrics, we just shifted the foundation. Instead of asking, how do I do more? We started asking, who am I being while I am doing? Instead of asking, how do I grow and scale? We ask, how do I align with how God designed me and this organization to operate? We stopped comparing and focused on who she was and how God designed her to be. Instead of striving to prove the work was valuable, she began resting in the truth that God had already called and equipped her. I want you to get that word resting, because it's not something we often feel. And you want to know what happened? Within a relatively short period of time, the amount of people she was reaching grew 50 times. Yes, I said that. In a short period of time, the amount of people she was reaching grew 50 times, and her personal income tripled. But here's what's even more remarkable. This is what she said. Donna, I'm doing 50 times more people than I was, and it's easier. How is that even possible? It wasn't because she worked more hours. It wasn't because she hired a massive team. Not because she became a better fundraiser. It was because she operated from a different place. Instead of KSI, she worked from KSI instead of KPI. You can see how that's easy to get confused. She was building people, not just programs. She was leaving a legacy in her team, not just creating systems to hand off to them. And when you build from that place, it multiplies. That's what kingdom spiritual intelligence does. It's not just a concept. It's a completely different way of operating. Inheritance is impressive. It's measurable. It needs to be maintained. But legacy is something you leave in people that transforms how they see God, how they see themselves, and how they operate in the world. And here is what shifted for her, and I've seen it shift in leaders who moved from KPI to KSI. She stopped asking, like, did I accomplish enough? Did I move the needle? And started asking, was I faithful? Was I aligned with who God called me to be? Did I listen? Did I move from love or from fear? That's the difference between measuring success and measuring faithfulness. KSI multiplies. Let me show you the ultimate example. I love to talk about Jesus, and Jesus had a public ministry for only 3 years. Yes, 3 years. Now, I know he taught thousands of people. I know there were crowds. I know there was 24 and 70 and all of that. But let's focus on his inner circle. The ones he spent the most time with, the ones he invested in, the ones he poured into. How many were there? 12. Only 12 people. Now, if Jesus operated in our modern leadership standards, we would say that wasn't much of a success. We might even call it a failure. 3 years and your inner circle is just 12 people. We might tell him he needed a better marketing strategy or more visibility, or he should grow and scale. But Jesus wasn't building a platform. He was building legacy. And another thing that's kind of crazy is he didn't leave 12 men a building. He didn't hand them an organizational chart. He didn't give them a strategic plan with KPIs and revenue projection. He left something in them. A new way of seeing God. A new way of seeing themselves. And a new way of operating in the world. It was a new kingdom. He gave them the Holy Spirit, a brand new identity, and he gave them authority. Philippians 2 says we have the same mindset as Christ. And let's talk about what that looked like. Jesus didn't have anything to prove. He didn't have to prove his value or worth. He knew who his identity was. So he could be selfless. And his primary goal was pleasing the Father, not preserving himself, not fighting that I get mine and I didn't get noticed and all the things we think about, getting our accolades. Because he knew who he was, because he was walking in that, God took care of him, and miraculous things occurred from all of that. The way that intimacy was between those two. That's KSI. The operating system he left in those 12 men. It was completely different. And the fun part is they went out and did the same thing for others. That's legacy. It reproduces without you being present. 12 people, 3 years. 2,000 years of multiplication, and this is still growing today. Not because he left them something to manage. He left something in them, and that is the 12-person revolution. So we've covered a lot, and I'd love for you to just take a step back for a moment and take a breath. Let's step back from the metrics, from the growth charts, from the pressure, and just look at your life. Look at your business, your ministry, your relationships. One day all of that will continue on without us. And it's not because we fail, but because time just moved forward. And when that day comes and you have moved on, what will they say about you? And I'm not talking about what you built, but who you are or were. If they're really honest, what would your eulogy sound like? Stephen Covey talked about it in one of his books. One of his chapters was called Begin with the End in Mind. So if you were writing your eulogy today, what would you want them to say about you? What words would they use to describe you? Do they feel stronger and empowered when they're around you? Do they have more clarity? Do they feel more courageous or braver when they're in your presence? What about peace? When they're in their presence, is there peace or not? Did you leave confidence? Did you make them feel confident in who they are? Did you build them up? Or would they say, he was really great at his job. She built something impressive. What will they say? What residue are you leaving after every encounter? What fragrance lingers when you leave a room? These questions are legacy. And the question most of us never ask at the end of our life is, did I accomplish enough? Did I move the needle? Did I look successful? The question will more be, was I faithful? Was I aligned and authentic with who I really am? Did I listen? Did I stay connected? Did I walk in love, not fear? This is leadership from identity, not insecurity. Authority flowing from intimacy with God. Calling expressed through obedience. And legacy formed through faithfulness. Now, this isn't always the way we're taught it should be. I mean, we want to look good or what looks good on paper, right? But what do you want people to carry away when they meet you? What do you want them to experience because they've encountered you? Those are legacy questions. We've been taught to build what we can measure: followers, revenue, engagement, growth charts. Inheritance has numbers. Inheritance has a bottom line. But legacy is harder to quantify. You can't put transformed 3 people this quarter on a board report. Or you can't track help someone discover their true purpose on a spreadsheet. So we chase what's countable. We build what's visible. We scale what's transferable. And most of the time, we end up exhausted. Inheritance requires you. But legacy multiplies you. So here's the shift. What if the most powerful thing you could build isn't something someone could use, but something that changes the kind of person someone becomes? What if impact isn't about numbers of how many people you reach, but how deeply you reach the people in front of you? What if the goal isn't to create a system people can replicate, but to activate kingdom spiritual intelligence in people so that they can create from a different place? That's a legacy question. We ask all kinds of questions, and the questions contain the answers in them. So instead of, how do I build something that survives me? Ask instead, what am I leaving in people that will continue multiplying and reproduce? Because when you focus on KSI instead of KPIs, when you focus on who you are being, not just on what you are doing, you are not creating dependence, you are creating multiplication. You're not handing off a structure that requires maintenance. You're releasing people who carry something that transforms everything they touch. There are a whole lot of reasons Jesus didn't stick around on earth, but we'll use this one for my example. He didn't stick around to manage the 12. He left KSI in them, and it continued. Which is why I've created gifts for you as well. Gifts available, Kingdom Spiritual Intelligence Starter Kit and other gifts. And you can visit me at my website at the letter I, vibrantliving.com. What will multiply? Because growth isn't the enemy, but depth is the multiplier. We don't need a bigger platform. We need to invest in transformation for yourself and others, not just transactions. You might need to slow down and ask, what am I actually building? What is my KSI? Because inheritance can't be transformed, but legacy multiplies. Inheritance requires you to be present, to take care of it, to manage it. And legacy reproduces even after you're not here anymore. What if maybe, just maybe, the 12-person revolution is what the world actually needs today? Not louder voices reaching more people, but people operating from kingdom spiritual intelligence, transforming others from that place. And as the story I told you with the nonprofit owner or founder, it was easier than she thought to be able to grow and to impact more people from a place of ease. I mean, everything in her life has scaled and gotten better, not just the spreadsheet, even though 50 times is huge. So remember, legacy is what outlives you. That's the goal. That's legacy.
Thank you for participating in today's enlightening session as we transition to our next expert. Remember that each strategy and insight is a step toward becoming a transformative leader in your field. Visit connectedleadersacademy.com to stay engaged and informed. The journey of change is ongoing. Let's move forward together.